Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom on the programme tonight with just one phase in these elections left. It's going to be a crucial vote in Bengal. Remember, in 2019, till the sixth phase, the BJP were actually ahead of the Trinamool Congress in results. But then there was a 9-0 surge in favour of the Trinamool in the last phase. Mamata Banerjee knows that, and she realises the importance of the last phase at a time when the BJP appears to be gaining a lot of strength in the state. That's what they claim. Today, the Prime Minister said Bengal is going to be the best performing state for the BJP in India. And the Trinamool is fighting for its existence in these elections. On this program, a deep dive into the final phase in Bengal with data, just what is at stake. And at 9:30 p.m, a very special interview, NDTV Dialogues with Sonia Singh, Sonia in conversation with Fareed Zakaria, the international affairs expert, Washington Post columnist, and host of CNN's GPS Sundays. That's coming up at 1:30. But first, as we look at the battle for Bengal and whether Modi's Blitz can breach Didi's fort, it's important to just run through a couple of important graphics. As I do that, let me introduce our panelists on the program this evening. Tuhin Sinha of the BJP, Amitabh Tiwari joins us as well. So does Shikha Mukherjee, the senior journalist, and Tausif Ahmed Khan, someone close to the Trinamool Congress. But before we go across to them, we want to put a peg to this particular discussion. And these were these remarks by the Prime Minister today.
बंगाल के चुनाव में टीएमसी पार्टी अस्तित्व की लड़ाई लड़ रही है। आपने देखा होगा पिछले असेंबली के चुनाव में हम 3 थे, 3 में से बंगाल की जनता ने हमें 80 पर पहुंचा दिया। हमें लोकसभा के अंदर भारी बहुमत पिछले चुनाव में मिला था। इस बार पूरे हिंदुस्तान में द बेस्ट परफॉर्मिंग स्टेट कोई होगा तो पश्चिम बंगाल होने वाला है।
All right, so that's a big claim there from the Prime Minister, but the BJP quite confident of where they stand in Bengal. Let's take a look at where Phase 7 was last time around and why it's so important and why the Trinamool, the India Alliance and certainly the BJP have it very much on their radar. It could be quite decisive if you take a look at where the overall elections are going. So let's roll out graphic 1. Remember, in Phase 7, in the Battle of Bengal, there are 9 seats in Phase 7. So if you actually look at seats 1 in the first 6 phases, and that's the first column, the Trinamool had won 13, and the BJP, if you take a look at the just underneath them, the BJP had won 18. So in the first 6 phases, the BJP were 5 seats ahead of the Trinamool Congress. But if you take a look at the 7th phase, right, that's where it was a 9-0 in favor of the Trinamool Congress. So a real surge in the performance of the Trinamool Congress. Now, whether or not that's something that's going to remain or whether or not perhaps the BJP making gains elsewhere, possibly even in the 7th phase, which comes up, that we'll know on the 4th of June. But it is interesting that at a time when the BJP has been gaining strength in Bengal, it was actually in the first phase, 6 phases in 2019 ahead of the Trinamool Congress, and in the 7th phase, that's when the Trinamool did well. Before I go across to key candidates, I'd just like to put that across to Shikha Mukherjee. Shikha, how is this 7th phase particularly important, obviously for all political formations, but is there a sense that for the BJP, for the Trinamool Congress, they just have to retain the seats they won, while for the BJP there's nothing to lose?
Obviously, because this is where this is the Trinamool stronghold. Just as in the phase 6, it was the BJP stronghold, and where out of the 8 seats, there were 7 were with the BJP, not after 2021. So this is the real crunch time. 6th phase and 7th phase. One was with the BJP, the other one is with the Trinamool. The point is, will the BJP make inroads? Where is it possible for the BJP to make inroads?
I'm just going to go through,
Kolkata.
Shikhati, just 1 second. I'm going to go through some of the key candidates in phase 7 and
Yeah,
I'll come back
sure.
to you in just a moment. So let's roll those graphics on some of the key constituencies and candidates in the battle for Bengal, because there are some really, really big names contesting. In Boshirhat, Rekha Patra, the face of the women's protest in Sandesh Khali, a key BJP candidate. Abhishek Banerjee, the protege of Mamata Banerjee's nephew, contesting from Diamond Harbour, and the Trinamool leader Shogoto Roy contesting from Dum. So 3 key faces over there, among many others who are contesting this time around. Shikha, go ahead with the points. You know, we've just pointed out 3 seats, important, and 3 big leaders. Your thoughts on,
That's right.
on these seats? Yeah.
So let's look at these 3 seats that you just put out. One is Rekha Patra, the face of the Shakti Swarup of the BJP's campaign. The woman, the empowered woman, the woman who was abused with violence by the Trinamool, who stands up and the BJP stands beside her. She is Shakti Swarup according to the campaign. BJP has nominated her. She's not a political worker in the past. She's a complete newbie. Mm-hmm. Now, having made her the symbol of women's power in Bengal, has the BJP on the ground got the wherewithal in terms of the organization and the strategy to convert her status as an icon into a vote? This is the big question that is going to come up on the 1st of June. Abhishek Banerjee has an enormous lead. The chances of him losing is almost impossible. Shogoto Roy is in for a tough fight, but I think that, Shogoto Roy is likely to get through. Now, what is the basis for this? The basis for this is that there are 2 things. One is that there is, all governments face it. All political parties in power face it. There is anti-incumbency against Mamata Banerjee. The issues are, in terms of Boshirhat, there's Sandesh Khali. In terms of the other constituencies, there is corruption.
Right.
On both of these, it would seem from the Prime Minister's interview to ANI that the Trinamool Congress is fighting for its existence. Its survival is at stake.
Yes.
Now, is in fact this survival at stake is the question that needs to be asked. On what basis is the Prime Minister making this statement? First and foremost, this is not a state assembly election where the Trinamool's fate is at stake. It is the BJP's fate which is at stake. Number 1. Number 2 is that is this corruption and Sandesh Khali issue enough to offset the support that Mamata Banerjee has? And there are 2 vote banks that Mamata Banerjee has. One is women voters who the expectation is that Sandesh Khali will impact in such a big way that they're going to move away from Mamata Banerjee. Now, that I think is a very large expectation.
Yes.
I don't know whether it's an unrealistic one or not. That will come out on the 4th of June. But it is a very, very large expectation.
Okay, Chikadi, let me just interrupt you to get a quick reaction to what you're saying. Lots of important points. Tuhin Sinha, what the Prime Minister said today in that interview, that, it's an existential issue in a sense in these Lok Sabha elections for the Trinamool Congress. Is that necessarily correct? Because as Shikhati points out, while the issue of Sandesh Khali, corruption, and I would add CAA are important electoral points, are they necessarily enough to dethrone Mamata Banerjee in Bengal from the lead position, as it were?
Good evening, Vishnu. Good evening, everybody. As you mentioned at the start, it was basically the 7th phase in the last elections, which turned out to be the savior for TMC. So imagine with all the negative deeds which they have done in the last 5 years, there is a lot of animosity against Mamata Banerjee across the state. And I don't think the 7th phase is going to be a savior this time. Now, crime and corruption have been the 2 cornerstones of or the hallmark of Mamata Banerjee's administration. And only in the last 4 months, the way these cases have tumbled out, whether it is Sheikh Shah Jahan, who she protected for a good two months before, at one point of time, 3 months ago, Sheikh Shah Jahan almost seemed like the super CM of Bengal. In the last 1 month, two very indicting Calcutta High Court judgments, one on the teacher recruitment scam, which, and I think the recruitment of thousands of teachers were set aside by the High Court. And number two, on the issue of reservation theft from the OBC community, which again, Mamata Banerjee shrugged off and rather she spewed venom on the judiciary. All of these are important issues. In the last, 10 days, in fact, the crime which has unfolded, of the Bangladesh minister being killed. Imagine even Bangladeshi criminals now realize the safest place to commit a crime, a heinous crime, is Kolkata. So these are very important issues which have dented whatever little credibility the TMC had. Besides, the whole attitude of going after BJP supporters, unleashing bloodshed, unleashing all kinds of warnings and reports of this nature have come from across Bengal. So this Taliban mentality of certain sections of the TMC will have to be decisively defeated. And I think that's what makes these elections very special.
Okay, Tausif Ahmed Khan, how would you respond to that? Corruption is what Tuhin focused on a great deal, saying that has a real impact, or potential impact on voters.
Vishnu, the more BJP talks about corruption, the more damage they will do to themselves, the more hypocrisy they will expose of themselves. Mr. Prime Minister was seen today standing in the roadshow next to the former Trinamool Minister Suvendu Adhikari, and he's a fire named accused in Sharda case, in Navda case. There's a videotape, he's taking money. So the superstar of corruption in Bengal, Suvendu Adhikari, is in BJP's camp, and BJP's main leader in Bengal. He's the opposition leader in Bengal, designated opposition leader in Bengal, and a Trinamool leader actually, who BJP has brought to their own side. So the lesser they talk about corruption, the better it is. Secondly, it is very interesting that Prime Minister says that Trinamool is fighting for survival. He quoted assembly results that from 3 they went to 77, but he missed a very crucial point. You see, in 2019, BJP had a lead of 120 assembly seats. And in 2021 election, that 5 years ago, BJP had a lead in 120 assembly seats. And then 2 years later, the seat went down to 70. So it's a downfall of BJP. After that, in the recent election of Panchayat, BJP is nowhere.
Okay.
And Trinamool vote share has in fact increased from 2019
so let's
to
take a look
2021 and 2023.
at victory margins. It's an interesting segue, slightly different from what you're saying, but I'd like to bring Amitabh in on this. Let's bring up graphic 3, the Lok Sabha victory margins last time around, because this is interesting. How close was it, and how significant are these victory margins? In fact, if you look at seats won by the BJP, there were 11 seats which were less than 10%. If you look at the Trinamool Congress, which is the third row, there were also 11 seats which they won with a margin of less than 10%. If you take a look at the BJP again, the top column, and seats where they won by a margin of more than 10%, it's 7, but the Trinamool is ahead. Again, the last column, by winning 11 seats with a margin of more than 10%. But it's interesting that in close contests of less than 10% margins for victory, it's 11 and 11 for the BJP and the Trinamool Congress. Amitabh, how does one interpret this? Can you unmute yourself, Amitabh? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's why the Battle of Bengal is so close, as you've shown in this fantastic graphic. There are 24 seats where BJP and TMC and Congress won with less than 10% margin. Now, 10% margin is a close contest because only a swing of 5% is required to change the result. Now, let's assume for a moment that BJP loses 5% on these 11 seats of vote share, and that's captured by the TMC. then almost all those seats could be won by the TMC. On the contrary, if TMC loses 5% of these 11 seats, which they won by less than 10%, and this 5% moves towards the BJP, then the BJP wins all these seats. So that's why the contest is so close. In phase 7, TMC had maxed out last time. And we also have to see it from a national perspective. By phase 6, BJP had won 278 seats in Lok Sabha in 2019. A 5 to 10 seats here and there means phase 7 is still crucial for everybody. Now, BJP had maxed out similarly in the Hindi heartland states, which will be going to polls like in Bihar, UP, and Jharkhand in 2019. So to make gains, it needs to win in West Bengal. It needs to break into this citadel of TMC, which is largely in the presidency and the southeast region. And of these 9 seats also, the TMC had won 2 seats with less than 10% margin. The CPM also has decent presence here. If you see the CPM vote share overall versus these 9 seats, they polled almost 10-11% votes and 20% plus votes in 2 to 3 seats. So that's why these 9 seats become very crucial for both the parties.
It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. In fact, if it is going to be close, there's every possibility that this would be a decider in some sense in these elections. I just want to, with you, Shikhadi, go across the Lok Sabha and the Assembly results in the last time around, and sort of look at where the BJP was and where the BJP ended up being. It is a fascinating story of growth. The Trinamool doesn't like this very much, but they are, a force to be reckoned with. To what extent is what we're trying to debate over here. But let's have that figure for 2019. And what we're trying to do actually is focus between 2014 and 2019, 2004 and 2019. So if we take a look at this, and these are the numbers for the Trinamool Congress. The Trinamool Congress in green, it went from 1 in 2004 to 19 seats in 2009, a whopping 34 seats in 2014, or 42 total, and then they fell to 22. But again, if you look at orange below, where the BJP started on a disastrous note in 2004 at 0, 2009 as disastrous at just, I believe, 1, 2014 pretty much as disastrous at 2, and then, you can see them just marginally below the Trinamool Congress in 2019. So between 2014 and 2019 in the Lok Sabha, just a massive jump, and it's come at the cost certainly of the Congress party. It does appear that certainly the BJP and the Congress, some would suggest, both may have gained at the loss of the Congress, which has been a declining force, and certainly of the left as well. In fact, that's the left number over there. In many ways, the most shocking figure in Bengal, from even higher than what the Trinamool was in 2014. In 2004, they were at 35. That part of the chart goes down dramatically to 15 in 2009, to 2 in 2014, and I think it was 0. I don't think they won any seats in 2019. So the change from 2014 to 2019, it is down 12 for the Trinamool Congress, but still substantial at 22, but a jump of 16 between 2014 and 2019 for the BJP. So that's point number 1. And I'm just going to go through the assembly elections and then get Shikhadi to comment on both of those. So let's take a look at the assembly elections in this battle for Bengal. Now, of course, assembly doesn't necessarily impact the Lok Sabha, but what we are trying to do is just look at the rise of the Trinamool and of the BJP. So 2006, of 294 Vidhan Sabha seats, the Trinamool was at 30. That went up to 215 in 2021. The BJP brought up absolutely nothing. 2006, 0, 2011, 0, 2016, just 3. And then the dramatic jump from 2016 to 2021, where they went up to 77 even in the assembly. And let's take a look at the Congress party now. Again, a steady decline between 2016 and 2021 when they won no seats, a complete rout of the party. Again, many of those would have crossed hands to the Trinamool Congress without a doubt. And of course, the biggest story of electorally plummeting has been that of the left. So if you take a look at between 2016 and 2021, the Trinamool Congress gained 4. The number's quite large for them. I mean, so there are no two ways about that. 215 out of 294 in 2021. But just look at the BJP. The BJP in 2016 was at 32. That jumped up to 77. Between 2016 and 2021, a gain of 74. The Congress down 44. The left down 32. Shikhadi, again, how would you analyze both these sets of data, Vidhan Sabha and before Lok Sabha?
Well, yeah, I think this is fascinating because if you look at the combined seats of the opposition, as it were, then it comes to about 76, and the BJP won 77. So, and what you have not shown, the graphic that maybe would explain it all even better, more vividly, is the vote share percentages. It's fascinating to see how what the BJP has gained is what the left and the Congress has lost. Mostly the left, about 1.5% from the Congress. Therefore, what is obvious is that if you look at this graph, what you're seeing is that by 2014, it was almost as though the opposition space had been there was a vacuum in the opposition space. Now, no space in politics is ever a vacuum. Somebody has to come in and fill it up. And the BJP did exactly that. The decline of the left, the decline of and the inability of the Congress to replace the left, all of that combined to create a space. And that space is where the BJP comes in, and it zooms from 3 to 77. Along with it takes the vote share of the left, the bulk of the vote share of the left, and it takes a little bit from the Congress. So basically, what this 2024 election is also going to be about is this left's confidence that it is in revival mode.
The left's confidence that it is in revival mode.
It's just in revival mode. It claims that. So having claimed that, it is now the point is, how will that vote share divide itself? Will there be an increase of the left's vote? If there is an increase in the left's vote, let's look at this. Every government, whether it is the Trinamool or whether it is the BJP today, has one problem, which is that there are people for it and there are people against it. Now, if there are people against the Trinamool Congress, they have a choice. They can vote BJP or they can vote for the left Congress. If the left vote is coming back to the left, then it is the BJP's loss. If the left vote is not coming back to the left, then the BJP is stable. This is what this election is going to play out.
Absolutely fascinating. We'll have the vote percentages out next time as well. Shikhadi will be joining us. I'm inviting her right now to be with us on the 4th when it all comes together. Out of time on this program, absolutely fascinating. Potentially neck and neck in Bengal this time around. It was very close last time around as well. But this 7th phase, absolutely crucial. This is where the Trinamool Congress surged ahead of all other parties, prior to which they were actually behind the BJP. That's how we started this program. What happens in this final 7th phase? I think all the parties, certainly the Trinamool and the BJP, will be very, very closely looking at that. We're going to take a short break at this stage. And after that, a very, very special interview, NDTV Dialogues with Sonia Singh. Sonia in conversation with Fareed Zakaria, the international affairs expert, the Washington Times, Washington Post columnist, and also the CNN anchor. So that's fascinating. The age of revolutions is what they're talking about.